Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Amy and I'm so happy that you're here. I have gotten quite a few new subscribers. To me, they are substantial to say the least. I never thought that I would get even 50 subscribers, so I'm very excited about this. And I thought because most of my videos don't show my face, that I would present myself. I made a post asking people to leave some questions so I could answer them so you would get to know me a little bit better. So I will be answering those as well. So thank you so much again for being here. I'm so happy that you're even remotely interested in getting to know me. So let's get to it. So as I said, my name is Amy. I'm 29. I live in Romania, but I'm originally from Belgium. I think the most important thing about me is that I love Jesus. He is my Lord and Savior. He's my beloved. I would not be here if I didn't have him. So part of this channel is my testimony about him. I want to showcase him in the books that I read, in the way that I talk about the books that I read. And that's part of the journey I'm going on this year with this channel as well. But before I get into that, let me say a few more lighthearted things about me. I love reading, so that's probably my biggest hobby. I love journaling. I love movies and art. I really enjoy gardening as well, even though I'm very bad at it. I have kind of gotten more into it since I moved to the countryside, and my husband and we have started like a little vegetable garden. And I also enjoy cooking. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the channel. So I have been reading for quite a few years now, and this year I'm really going on like this kind of journey with what kind of books I read, because I used to read absolutely anything and everything. It was actually part of my Goodreads bio that I'll read basically anything. I really felt that God wanted me to be more discerning regarding what I read, not only about the books but also about the movies that I watch. So I was really glad to discover some amazing channels that have really helped me out. I'll leave them in the description for you to check out as well if you haven't already. That talk a lot about discernment and about how what we read and what we consume has a great impact on our relationship with God. So that's kind of part of the journey that I'm going on this year, and it's part of what is going on with the channel. Initially, I started this channel because I was already reading, and I thought, I'll just make some videos about reading with me. It's part of a creative outlet that I really enjoy. I thought it might be something that would help me become more creative. Then the more that I created videos, the more that I realized it's actually a great way for me to be held responsible for what I read and how I talk about books. So that's why I also did the unhaul that you've maybe seen in my previous videos. And I'm trying to get rid of the books that are kind of an impediment in my relationship with Christ. There's a bug somewhere here. Oh, it's up there, so you'll probably not see that. This actually relates to one of the questions that I got, which was, there's the bug. You might see it now. The question was why you started this channel. I actually had a channel before having this one a few years back, and I thought it was so much fun. I loved creating videos. I loved having YouTube as just an outlet, but also as a community. But I was very much not in the Christian community. I was a Christian at the time, which is part of the reason why I actually stopped my channel, because I realized I was investing so much attention, so much of my time into it, and it was slowly becoming something that was overtaking my time with God. And my thoughts would not be where they should be. My attention would not be where it should be. So I decided to put a stop to it. And now when restarting another channel, I went at it from a completely different angle. So now I'm trying to hold myself responsible, but also be held responsible for how I consume books. So that's why I'm really glad that the most of the subscribers that I have are Christians, because they might understand what I'm going through and what I'm trying to achieve here. I want to have different kinds of discussions about books than I did previously. I want the way that I think about books to be a lot more sanctified than it was previously. So that was a little bit about me, just from what I could think of. Let's look at the questions, which I am incredibly excited about that somebody even posed questions. So let's see what the questions are. First of all, let's look at what my sister asked. She is a real MVP. She comments on all my videos. She watches all of them. I'm very excited that she's so invested in it. So she asks, let me just bring up my questions here. She asks, favorite buddy read experience so far? Okay, I know that she asked this question just so I would talk about this book. My favorite buddy read experience was Moon Showers. This is probably the biggest inside joke that I have with my sisters that's been going on for years and years. Moon Showers by Laura Phillips is probably one of the silliest books that I've ever read, if not the silliest book that I've read. Quite a few years back when I was in university, I did like a book exchange. The point of the exchange was that you would offer a person a book that really impacted you, and you would also receive books that impacted other people. I received Moon Showers, and I don't know if this person was genuinely impacted by this or it was a joke. I have no idea, but I read it. And it was probably the worst book I had read at the time. It's just nonsensical, and it's so camp that it's funny. Got to such an extent that one of my sisters befriended Laura Phillips on Facebook. Laura Phillips seems like a genuinely sweet person who loves farming, and she posts about goats, and it's amazing. Now I try to read as many Laura Phillips books as I can find because they're quite rare to find. That's where the fun part comes in. I have been able to find 2 other copies of this book that I've sent to both of my sisters, and we ended up buddy reading it. Just because I wanted people to experience this with me. It was one of the most entertaining experiences of reading a book that I've had. It's genuinely fun to read silly books that are nonsensical with people who have the same type of humor that you do. It was a great buddy reading experience. Also, for my sister, what you use for inspiration for your reading journal. So I've made quite a few videos about my reading journal. I'm also going on a journey with journaling. This is the first year that I'm really into it, and most of my inspiration comes from Pinterest or other creators. I'll leave some channels here. I am not very creative when it comes to journaling, so I think partially because I'm really at the start, but I get really inspired by people who have been doing it for years or are just genuinely more creative than I am. They have the most beautiful spreads. It doesn't have to be a reading journal that inspires me. I follow people that just have journaling accounts that have maybe like life journals or journals about movies they watch, and I do the same on Pinterest, so I get inspiration from that quite often. But I also try to get inspired by the book or by the vibe of the book. Whatever pops into my head when reading the book, it might inspire me to make a specific style of page. But again, I'm not too advanced in it. Yeah, it's mostly just other people being really creative and amazing. Okay, somebody says, fave books, fave movies, how you started YouTube, 2026 goals. Let's talk about fave books. I have books that I love that I think are perfect, and I have books that have impacted me greatly. There's kind of like a difference there. So the ones that I love that I think are perfect, I usually recommend to other people because I think they have values that I agree with. They inspired me. They really built me up. And then books that really impacted me are sometimes books that I don't agree with the values of, but they made me think so deeply about certain things. So I have a few here. One of the biggest books in my life is Pride and Prejudice. This is one of my all-time faves. I also love the movie. That's also one of my favorite movies. One that's more recent, East of Eden. I think this should be a book that absolutely everyone reads. This is genuinely one of my best books. I've only read it once, but this is an incredible book. My favorite romance of all time, Beach Read. Just so you know, it's not clean, it is Open Door. This is one of those books that I cry at every single time I read it. I don't know how many times I've read it now, maybe like 3 or 4 times, and I cry every time. One that I read when I was in high school, and I'm now maybe on my 3rd or 4th reread, I'm not sure, but that builds me up every time I read it. Jane Eyre. This book had such a great impact on me. One that I fundamentally disagree with when it comes to values, but that is one of my all-time favorites, is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This had such a great impact on me the first time I read it, and I reread it last year or maybe 2 years ago, I don't remember exactly, and I was just so flabbergasted by it once again. This is one of my favorites because I actually studied literature at university, and this is one of those books where I'm just so impressed by it when it comes to how complex it is, literarily speaking. It's very similar to why I also appreciate East of Eden. East of Eden, I think, is complex in other ways as well. So when it comes to ethics and how I view the world, East of Eden is very relatable to me. This, as well as East of Eden, are just so complex from a literary point of view that if you're maybe like a big reader because you want to see how books are written and you appreciate complexity of writing, this is one of the great ones to read because of that. One of the books that I've reread 2 or 3 times, Anna Karenina. I love this one specifically because there's a lot of talk about God, and one of the main characters, he has such a transformative journey in this book when it comes to his relationship to God. Levin is one of the characters that every time I read his perspective, I feel so impacted by the way that he views the world and the way that he's changed and his thought processes. So this is one of my favorites because of that. One of the shortest that I don't actually own is Foster by Claire Keegan. Love that one. Cried like a baby. One of my longest, Lonesome Dove. I only read this year, but I know this will remain one of the best. And then I have a few that are fantasy that I just love. They are some of my favorites because they are purely entertaining and they're so well written. Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson was one of my first epic fantasy books that I read and will never forget. Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. It really opened my eyes to what YA fantasy could be. A favorite that I actually haven't given 5 stars because I think it's very flawed but had a great impact on the way that I understand fantasy is The Bridge Kingdom. Again, this is not a clean series, so just be aware of that if you're gonna read it. It's quite spicy. It's one of the only series with spice that I will probably continue because I am so deeply entrenched in this world. It's very political, so that's part of the reason why I love it. Okay, when it comes to favorite movies, probably my all-time favorite movie is the 2005 Pride and Prejudice. I probably rewatch it yearly. I cry yearly. I love that movie from all points of view. I think it's amazingly filmed, amazingly written. It's a deeply romantic. Just love it. Aside from Pride and Prejudice, I think my other favorite movie is Lord of the Rings, specifically the second movie, but the entire series has had a very deep impact on my life. I remember a few years back, the opening credits started for the first movie and I started sobbing. It has a very deep place in my heart. I'm also a very big fan of musicals. I think probably my favorite is Funny Girl with Barbara Streisand. I also really love In the Mood for Love. I watch movies for different reasons, a bit similarly to books. Some of them I love because they're such a testament to artistry and they speak so much to how creative man can be. They can create such beautiful, beautiful shots. I love paying attention to color in movies, but I think my all-time favorite movies are the ones that speak to me at like a heart level, which is part of the reason why Lord of the Rings is on the list. There's a nostalgia factor to it. It has such great memories attached to it, but also it's such a way for me to see Jesus in the series. I just cry every time I watch it because to me it speaks a lot of God's love. Okay, how you started YouTube? Talked about that already, so I hope that was clear for you. The last thing they ask for is my 2026 goals. I'm not sure if this relates to books or personally. First of all, when it comes to books, I want to slow down. I used to read, in my opinion, a lot, exaggeratedly a lot. So I really want to slow down, be more intentional about what I read, how I read, and not only that, just spend a little bit more time in my life, not just in fiction. So that was goal number 1 when it came to books. I also wanted to be more discerning, like I mentioned. When it comes to my life goals for this year, I am actively working on my house with my husband. So we are renovating a barn. We purchased it quite a few years ago, and we've been working on it ever since. And this year, we're continuing it. So that's kind of like an active goal of working towards that. I want to grow closer to God by specifically being more intentional about how I study his word. So I do a lot more studies. I pay more attention when I read the word, make sure to not have a day go by in which I don't spend time with him. This, life goal, like that's not just this year, that's a lifetime kind of thing. One of my goals, if you can call it that, is to maybe start a family. I actually used to not want any kids, and then God really worked on my heart and he really changed it. And even though I'm still quite fearful of it, specifically of the birth process and of the pregnancy process, because I have some health issues, he really showed me that things can be done from a place of, even though I feel fear, I put my trust fully in him. And I don't want to make my fear of pain or of disappointment or anything worldly be more strong than how much I trust I have in him. I want to do it even though my flesh is kind of screaming. I want my trust to be fully in him. Again, I don't know if that's a goal, but it's in God's hands. We'll see. Okay, Emma Reads 734, who has commented multiple times on my channel, so thank you so much, Emma. They ask favorite books from childhood and when you started journaling. I actually didn't used to be a big reader. I started reading when I was more like a teenager, but I remember when I was a small child, I loved the Frank Peretti. It was like an adventure series. It was like this family going on adventures, and it was a Christian series, and I remember really liking that. And later, when I was quite pretentious and I was trying to get the attention of a boy, I said, I'll become smart, and I started reading classics. Of course, the intention was completely wrong, but then I actually discovered I love reading and I love classics. I discovered Pride and Prejudice and Shakespeare, and I loved them. I realized, I could fall deeply in love with classic literature. And then what really ignited my whole obsessive reading was actually Emperor, The Gates of Rome, which is a historical fiction about Julius Caesar. Now, I'm not the biggest historical fiction person, but this one, it really did it for me. I was on a trip in Greece and I read it, this whole thing, in like a day. I was obsessed. When I started journaling, I actually have 2 journals. My first journal is this one, which was like an attempt at journaling, but it wasn't, let's say, a serious journal. So all I wanted to do was kind of write down every single book that I read and my thoughts about it. And then I started doing some doodles next to the books. So like the Viscount Who Loved Me has a little bee on it, crazy things like that. And then this was 2 years ago. This was 2024. I realized I actually really liked it, but I had to do some tweaks because it wasn't working for me perfectly. So one of the tweaks I did was that I actually wanted more drawings. I wanted more art incorporated in it. And then I made spreads. So yearly spreads that I would fill in, and I really loved that. My first, let's say, more serious journal in which I had yearly spreads. I would do monthly drawings, and I would make little drawings for specific books that really impacted me. But this is the year where I took it really seriously. I really thought about why I have a reading journal, what my purpose is with it. So that's when I started buying supplies, stickers. I realized I don't draw well. I'm not good at that. So stickers is the way to go. That's how I continued in the same journal. I made pages that looked a little bit more like this, which is a lot more sticker heavy, and I find it way more enjoyable this way. So we're basically on year 3, but realistically, year 1. So I still consider myself a beginner. And not only that, I'm like I mentioned before, I'm on a bit of a journey of discovering what I like. I love taking advice from people on how I can get better at it. So I hope that clarifies it for you, Emma. And then we have some questions from Lauren. Thank you, Lauren, for asking your questions. Okay, best books you've ever read. Books that made you think the deepest. Books you will never forget. So best books you've ever read. I've already mentioned those for a previous question. Books that made you think the deepest. Anna Karenina is for sure one of them. This one makes me think incredibly deeply every single time I read it. It makes me ponder on life. It makes me ponder on God. It's amazing. C.S. Lewis always makes me think quite deeply. One of the ones that really made me think about life is the Screwtape Letters. I loved that, and it made me think about how we are impacted by the spiritual world, for we are first in the spiritual and then in the earthly, so I think about that a lot. And then The Problem of Pain, which I read this month, really impacted me. It was one that I thought about deeply. It's flawed, could be longer. You know, C.S. Lewis always thinks so complexly, and this one really made me think about things. Books I will never forget. They don't have to be perfect, but they're usually books that spoke to a very specific side of me. One of the ones I haven't mentioned yet is Far From the Madding Crowd. I don't think I'll ever forget this. It has such a lively atmosphere, such a vivid one, that I don't think I'll ever forget it. Thomas Hardy's writing is impeccable. His characters are amazing. I love Gabriel Oak. What a man. Love that one. Similar vein, if you like cowboys, if you like complex characters that go on a journey, you like being harrowed by their life stories and the hardships they go through, the dynamic between characters is amazing. This is one of them. Same for The Secret History, because it had such an impact on me. This is how I discovered dark academia. It spoke to me when I was in high school. It had such a deep impact on me when it comes to how I view literature. Another one, My Dark Vanessa. Again, these are not necessarily perfect books, but I'll never forget them. This is one that you should check all the trigger warnings for. It's very intense, very intense. It talks about grooming and abuse, and it's really difficult, but I don't think I'll ever forget the story or the way that it was written. One that's kind of the opposite, because it's so quiet and it's so soft, but I don't think I'll ever forget it, is Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. I read this, I think, last year. It's incredibly beautiful. At first I thought, well, maybe this is a bit slow, not for me. How wrong I was. This is beautiful, and it kind of cemented Kazuo Ishiguro as one of those authors that always makes me think, and I never forget his books. So for example, Never Let Me Go is one of the ones that I will never forget as well. Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, such a great gothic novel. Will never forget it. One of the OG books that I will never forget. Atonement by Ian McEwan. I was flabbergasted when I first read this. The ending completely destroyed me. It has some harrowing scenes about war and about what you do for your relationships and the mistakes you make and what an impact they have on the rest of your life and on other people. This is a hard one. I also love the movie. I think one of the ones that I'll never forget as well is Anne of Green Gables. I didn't really like it the first time I read it. It's not that I disliked it. It was just so cute, and at the time I wasn't into cozy literature at all. I think now if I would reread it, I'd probably like it more. But the atmosphere and Anne as a character, they're just so beautiful, so great. There's a lot of nature writing that I loved. I'll probably never forget that one either. Okay, Lauren also asks, favorite genres. I love classics. I find it quite strange that they're considered a genre because a lot of them talk about very different things. So The Picture of Dorian Gray, which is also one that I love and I'll probably never forget, is completely different to Anne of Green Gables, even though they're both considered classics. I think I read classics the least, but percentage-wise, I give them the highest rating usually. I also love romance. I'm a very deeply romantic person. I thrive on romance. I love romantic relationships, and books and movies is probably my favorite part of the media I consume usually. So romance is one of the big ones. I love fantasy, especially epic, grand scale fantasy. I love battle scenes and political scheming. I do enjoy historical fiction, but usually when it's not about Second World War. So older historical fiction, if you can call it that. So like ancient Rome or 1600s, or, you know, historical fiction about places and times I haven't heard a lot about. I love mysteries now, so mystery thrillers, cozy mysteries. I'm really starting to enjoy those. I almost never read horror. I don't think I should, so I don't do a lot of that. I also like contemporary fiction. It really depends. It depends who writes it and what the topic is. I find a lot of literary fiction to be very worldly with conclusions that I don't agree with, so I don't do a lot of reading of that. I do like nonfiction, but specifically theology. Okay, and finally, Lauren asks, favorite thing about living in Romania? Are you originally from there? So I'm not originally from Romania. I'm actually Belgian. My parents are missionaries that moved to Romania. How long is it now? Maybe 26 years ago. We moved to a small village in Romania, and I grew up here. So I grew up speaking Flemish, but at school I would speak Romanian. I grew up in the Romanian culture, but at home I had the Belgian culture. I actually really enjoyed growing up this way. My favorite thing about Romania, well, one of my favorite things is the nature. The nature here is incredible. I don't know a lot of countries that are as beautiful as this one. There's forests, there's a sea, there's animals everywhere. It's amazing. It's one of the things that I hope to never get used to and take for granted. One of the other ones is the people here are very Latin. It's like a combination of Latin blood and Balkan blood. So people are very open. They love a good party. They're very welcoming and they love food. The food here is so good. Kind of have their hearts on their sleeves all the time, which is a very big difference to how Belgians are. It frustrates me a lot of times because it's not natural to me to be that way. It's really helped me open up. And I'm also married to a Romanian, so I kind of have to deal with the Romanian chaos when it comes to his family. But it's really endearing as well. They're very loving, kind people. But I have to say, Romania is amazing. There's a reason why I didn't move back to Belgium, even though I could have. If you ever get the chance to visit this side of Europe, I really recommend it. There's so much to see, so much food to try, so many people to meet that will welcome you, and they'll probably take you drinking. I don't drink, but they'll get you to drink. I gotta tell you that. That is it. Thank you so much for watching this. I hope this way that you got to know me a little bit more. If you have any more questions, please let me know in the comments. I will gladly answer them. I am so grateful that you're here, that you subscribed. I'm just so excited. I'm very excited to see where this leads. Let's talk all things books. If you have any recommendations, of course, let me know. If you've read any of the books that I've mentioned, please let me know. I so want to talk about them. I hope you have a good day, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.